by the Senate President,
Yes.
using his office as the Senate President to oppress her as a senator because she has refused to the sexual gesture of the Senate President. And what we are saying is that it is within our right to challenge the Senate President for just action. That every woman has a right to speak against her oppressor.
So first and foremost, a big congratulations to all women. You understand? Because we're actually in the mood of celebrating the Women's Day, the International Women's Day. And I know a number of you watching this video, either you're watching as a woman or probably you have one woman in your life. Probably you have your mother or you have your wife or you have your sister or you have a friend that is a woman. In one way or the other, I know definitely you have someone you can actually celebrate today being the International Women's Day. And as many as possible that can actually hear me, please do well to actually celebrate every woman around you. Either your wife, either your sister, either your friend, either your mother. Just do well to celebrate them. Women are very, very, let me just say this video is actually meant for women generally. You understand? They are special beings and they need to be treated very well. You understand? So, when this issue about Natasha and all of that started, some women actually came out to fight for the interest of women. You understand? Because this is not even about Natasha. It's not even about Natasha. It's about women. It's about the voice of women. I said in one of my videos that the voice of women must be heard. Their voice must not be silent. The fact that they are women does not mean that their right must be trampled upon or their voice must be silenced. And they must be given the respect and honor for that. So once again, please just help me type at the comment section. Don't mind me. Just help me type congratulations to all women out there. Once again, from this YouTube channel, Discovery Africa TV, happy International Women's Day. As you all know, yes, back and forth about all of what is going on between Natasha and Senator AKPABIO. A number of things is what I'm going to be breaking out in today's video. And even in responding to this International Women's Day, I'm actually going to play a video of what was said by Senate President AKPABIO. Do you understand? Everybody needs to celebrate the woman today. Everybody has to celebrate someone today. That is just what this video is all about. It's not even about Natasha or not Natasha. It's about women generally. And just like I said, even when the issue of Natasha started, we saw some women stood up for her anyway. Although we saw some women didn't speak, some didn't speak for her, but we saw some women spoke for her interest. And not just that they are defending Natasha, but they are defending the image of women. And I strongly believe that the voice of women must not be silenced. Their voice must be heard and their rights and privileges must be given to them. So guys, join us into this video about all of this issue going on, Natasha versus AKPABIO and the rights of the women in our society. Because I believe the world can actually become a better place if the women are actually treated very well. So this issue about Senator Natasha and AKPABIO is not something that is going to end very soon, because we keep hearing and keep receiving several comments and reactions about all of these things. And that is what you're going to watch alongside what was said by Senate President in this video. So watch the rest of the video and do well to give it a thumbs up. Thank you guys.
Distinguished colleagues, today also marks the International Day for the observance and honor to our women. There are a few events lined up. Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari, you laugh as if you don't love women. Meanwhile, you are a member of the Senate Committee on Women Affairs. Let me tell you, the first chairman of the Senate Committee on Women Affairs was a senator from my state. This chamber in 1999. So it shows you the importance that this nation attaches to women. And he was a mayor. But he was the first chairman of the Senate Committee on Women Affairs. So let me say congratulations to all our women in the nation, including my children, my 4 daughters, my dear wife, and all the wives and spouses of our senators I want to wish you a fantastic observance of today's events and pray that God will keep you alive to continue to contribute your quota towards global peace. Congratulations to our women.
So let me start with you, Senator Grace Bent. As the first female senator in Adamawa, how did you stay true to yourself without feeling suppressed? And why are senators who speak out silenced without investigation? No matter your stand on the Akpoti versus AKPABIO case, doesn't the Senate's rush to protect one man raise serious concerns?
Thank you very much, Ruth. Good to have me here today. I give all the glory to God Almighty. Your question on my emergence as the first female senator from Adamawa State is very instructive. One thing that is pertinent about the position of every woman in this country is that very few men, and I'd say very few, emphatically, can stand the guts of strong women. Strong women in terms of the intellectualism, in terms of their capacity to think, in terms of their views and the ability to stand shoulder to shoulder with their menfolk. It's not very common to see men being able to swallow, the guts of such women. Having said that, I must tell you that my emergence as the first female senator from Adamawa State, it wasn't something I got on a platter of gold. It was a keenly contested election. Of course, it's not to say that before me, other women were not giving it shot to try to contest for elective offices. But by the help of God and the awareness that came on the people, especially the Adamawa Southern Senatorial District, which is my own constituency, made it a lot easy for me to, really succeed as the first female senator to represent them at the apex lawmaking body. I am working on my memoir now to help assist other upcoming women who are in the same shoes as I am. You must understand the peculiarity of my own history. I am married to a man from the Bachamai extraction in Adamawa State. And it's very historic that the people of Adamawa State not only accepted me as their wife, they integrated me into the society, and they spoke volumes by having to elect me both at the primary level and during the general election. So I don't want to divulge all the secrets here today. When my book is ready, you will read a lot from that. Having said that, today is the International Women's Day, and it's very, very historic. And the theme for this year, I think, is called the Accelerated Action. What is the accelerated action about? Accelerated action for gender equality and equal opportunities for women as much as they have with their men counterparts. So it's a very, very critical theme that I think everybody should take very seriously. We are experiencing a very sensitive issue in Nigeria today as it affects a junior colleague of mine, Senator Natasha Uduahang. I want to say there are two angles to this thing. You will understand that this matter is before the court of law, and it will be sub judice for me at this point in time to make any opinion of mine as it were. I would have loved to do that. But I believe that the Nigerian judiciary will do a very, very meticulous job. Due diligence, due process will be followed, and I believe that justice will prevail. And the technicalities of what happened to Natasha in the Senate is very instructive too, because you must understand that the Senate is guided by standing rules and orders, and we must take cognizance of that. The sanctity of that institution and the integrity of that institution. It's why you have those rules and those standing orders. I think there are about 235 standing orders or thereabout, if I'm not mistaken. And the problem with that is that year in, year out, every 4 years, you see the National Assembly having to, roll out new members who have not gone through the old wrong of understanding how the Senate works. So I think I want to use this opportunity to appeal to the Senate leadership, especially with the new election year coming by this time next year. Of course, people will be preparing for primary elections. And it is imperative, and it's very, very pertinent that the Senate leadership, and indeed in the National Assembly, must always have a retreat for every parliamentarian to understand what the rules and the standing order says about their activities in the Senate. Ordinarily, if Natasha was very, very used to these standing orders and rules, maybe some of these minuses here and there wouldn't have arisen. I think that this shouldn't discourage the Nigerian women. From time immemorial, as a Christian, I understand that women have always gone through what we call the sexual harassment. I remember the case of Mother Sarah in the Holy Bible, where Father Abraham had to, protect himself and had to tell his wife, who was such a pretty woman.
Thank you so much, Grace Ben.
He had to tell her,
thank you so much,
please,
Senator Grace. We need to get. Yes. I need to introduce Aisha into the foray as well. So Aisha, I want to ask you a question.
Okay, thank you so much.
Facing what might be the biggest battle of her life, Senator AKPABIO made her sexual harassment against Senate President AKPABIO public. What do you think? Why do you think she chose this platform to announce it? And what strategy do you see behind this move?
Thank you so much for having me. And I think one of the things that we must understand is the fact that sexual harassment is not something to be condoned. And it's gone on for ages, but it's not acceptable. And we almost understand that the silence of our mothers and our elders is not our silence. And also our own silence is not the silence of the younger generation. And they're pushing back, and they have a reason to. On the issue of the sexual harassment, at any time that a victim feels comfortable or have had enough and speak out, we must understand that a lot of time there are always remote causes to something. You take it in, you keep quiet, and there's a moment where you just can't take it enough. And I think Senator Natasha Akpoti got to that particular stage, and when it was like, enough is enough. I can't keep being harassed. And we know, we all live in Nigeria. We know the kind of environment that we live in, and the fact that women are not protected. And so you find women across everywhere, even little children are being, harassed sexually. And now we have someone at the level that she is speaking out, and yet, they're sort of like trying to silence her. And I think what is most instructive, and I haven't seen this from the Senate, is the fact that there needs to be an independent investigation. Nothing is being said about this. Focus is more on technicalities. And even if we go into the technicalities, when I see us talking about, the Senate being an institution that needs to be protected, it has its own laws and everything, why is it that the Senate it looks as if it's almost like it has a court-like, mafia-like kind of appearance to it, whereby there are members who behave badly, who do badly. You never see the Senate coming out to actually punish them or suspend them at any time. And this is a pattern. Nigeria needs to watch out for this pattern. At any time that you see, any member of the National Assembly being suspended or something like that, it is either they're standing for the people, they're speaking up on issues that are happening, they're revealing information, or they're fighting injustice. And it becomes very easy to suspend it. And I'll give you a quick example. We saw a situation whereby, not this assembly, we saw a situation whereby a senator was caught on camera physically molesting a lady where he had gone to buy something. At the end of the day, fellow senators were saying to him, do you want us, we want us to protect you or not? And they ended up protecting him, and they didn't do anything about it. And if you think that the Senate is an institution that should be respected, they should begin to live by those examples. In terms of the sitting arrangement, we've even seen the Senate president, when he was a floor member, had also had its meltdown and breakdown over sitting arrangement. And this is not the first time. Senator Natasha is not the first to go ahead and do it. And so when we focus on technicalities and not on the issues and the injustice that we've seen, and to quickly add that on the issue of her writing her petition, yes, when you have a case, you are supposed to be the one to write your own petition. There are certain rules if they don't make sense, if it's not about equity, if there's no justice to it. Sometimes you have to challenge those rules. Petitions that are coming from your members, from your constituencies, of course you're not supposed to sign it. But let me ask amongst the I'm not very familiar with the Senate rules, so I would say yes, I'm not knowledgeable enough. But the question I will ask, is there a place where it explicitly says that if you are writing a petition against a fellow senator, you're not supposed to sign it? Or is it the signing is only when petition is being brought in from your constituency? But beyond that also, and the biggest travesty of it all, is the fact that the accused was also the judge in this case. If you're talking about the Senate being an institution that is so well respected, that is supposed to be of members who are distinguished, even though they haven't distinguished themselves, you would expect that they would have had the courage to have said to the Senate president, step down on this issue. Let someone else, an impartial person, stay on it and, take charge of that particular session. And if the members of the Senate were unable to have the courage to do this, then you would have thought that integrity would have made the Senate president to excuse himself and come down and say, on this issue, since I'm the one who is being accused, let me step down and let this go on. None of that happened. And for me, the question is this: what right does the Senate or members of the Senate have to take away something that the Constitution of this country has given someone? Senator Natasha was not made a senator by her fellow senators in the Senate. She was made a senator by her constituents who voted for her. And even when there was issue with that whole election, she went to court and she got her mandate back. And so they cannot strip her of something that they were not the ones that gave them. And I don't think it makes sense for you to suspend somebody for 6 months. They don't have a right. They shouldn't have a right. And that should be challenged. And that has been challenged before. To suspend anybody from their legislative duty, what they can have a right to is to suspend you maybe from taking part in committee activities, from taking part in some oversight function. But for this is a travesty that we should all, stand up for. And let me just end up by saying that Senator Natasha was not humiliated. The Senate humiliated itself. It shows that it's full of men and women who don't have courage, who do not understand that they are all first among equals, and that they were sent in by their citizens, and their allegiance is supposed to be to the Constitution, to Nigeria, and to their constituents. They decided that they were going to bow their heads and do nothing when they saw injustice being done. And I will end with Senator Natasha's words. This injustice will not be sustained. And this will be the beginning that will lead to a shift in this country, by the grace of God.
That's a very interesting, powerful statement that you made. But I want to ask Senator Grace. Can we have Senator Grace in the House, please? Given the intense backlash that Senator...
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay. Given the intense backlash that Senator Agboti Uduaghan has faced for speaking out, do you think there's a way for her to reclaim her seat? balancing her commitment to serving her people with her stand against oppression, without losing face with her supporters or diminishing the defiance that sparked her courage in the first place?
Senator Natasha has a lot of opportunities and a lot of things going for her on this matter. Senator Natasha was validly elected by her constituents. I'm not in support of the 6 months suspension. It's alien to me as a parliamentarian. I was in the 6th Senate, and the camaraderie that we had during our time, we had about 8 female senators in the chambers, and at no time did any senator, was ever subjected to any kind of, whether you call it humiliation or abuse or any kind of embarrassment, as Senator Natasha may have experienced. But having said this, I am very, very optimistic that the leadership of the Senate is going to review this matter and understand that the constituency which Natasha represents cannot afford to be alienated from the scheme of events and from participating in national discourse as it affects our constituency. 6 months is a no-no for me. Something must be done about that. And it brings us to the issue of having to have more women in that Senate and in the National Assembly as parliamentarians. You have 4 women, 4 fresh first-timers who are still trying to understand the rope. They don't understand most of the way you move motions, the way you sponsor bills, and so on and so forth. And until we have more women that have their voices heard in the National Assembly, we're able to repeal some of those obnoxious laws that have eaten to work against the women folk in Nigeria. We cannot continue this way. You cannot have 4 women out of 109 senators, and you expect, the day Natasha's issue was being discussed, it was only Natasha that was at the sitting that day. I didn't see any other woman. Probably if the other female senators had come to the Senate, 1 or 2 of them may have been able to, speak reason to some of our male counterparts for them to understand where Natasha is coming from. But having said this, the International Women's Day today is very, very instructive for us. It is high time the Nigerian political parties and the Nigerian government begin to enlarge the space for us. Election is around the corner again. It is incumbent on the political parties to begin to enshrine in their constitution. I must say this, because Natasha's issue should have gotten a more human face if more women are able to rise up to the occasion for her. But you see in the Senate, what do you expect of the men? The men must protect themselves. Unfortunately for us, the women have become endangered species, not just in Nigeria, but all across the world. And for how long are we going to do that? Equal opportunities for the women. I mean, you just asked me, how did I manage to come to the Senate? It was not an easy one. A woman must go the extra mile. As a matter of fact, Aisha just said it now. She's not a politician. What a female politician goes through can better be imagined than said. But I believe that if you separate these 2 issues that is before us on Natasha's issue, the technical aspect, which is about the sanctity of the institution, and then the allegation by Natasha, you'll be able to have a more balanced and a more robust and objective consideration and analysis of this matter. But I believe that Nigerian women must rise up to the occasion. We cannot be speaking outside of the Senate. We cannot be speaking outside of the Parliament. You must have your voice heard there. You must be able to rise up. You must have the capacity to debate robustly and protect the interests of the women folk in this country. You cannot look at so many bills that were thrown out. The Equal Opportunity Bill was thrown out. I recall Dr. Mrs. Aisha Buhari and the former Minister of Women Affairs led a group of women to lobby the men when those bills were to be passed. And with all those lobbying, it ended up being thrown into the trash bin. How long are we going to do that? So the political parties must stop playing lip service to the issue of women participation in politics in Nigeria. It is not about promising us 35% affirmative action, which has not been realizable, which has always become a routine. It has become a rhetoric thing. How many political parties have their national chairman as women in this party? How many political parties have national secretaries as women? Have national organizing secretaries as women?
But if
principal officers. You have the National Working Committee, where you have just one lone voice, a derogatory nomenclature of a national woman leader.
Can I interject? Can I interject there?
Woman do?
Before we go on break, can I interject there?
Within the National Working Committee.
Yes, the Senate President recently.
You must understand that Natasha's ordeal, is different than what you were saying. The voice of the women can only be heard where they are real parliamentarians, where the women can push and
Senator
bills
Senator
and throw out some of
Senator
these
I have to draw this attention. I have to interrupt there before we go on break.
That have suppressed us.
Senator
We're not doing any competition.
Before I go on break,
I'm a married woman. I've lived with my husband for more than 3 decades. My being a senator or by being in a political office has not changed who I am. My husband has supported me. It is high time for our male politicians to understand that they have daughters and they wish that their daughters should at least get to the pinnacle of whatever chosen career they want to.
Okay,
if you don't protect your daughters, your wives, your sisters, for God's sake, how can you protect Natasha?
Senator Grace, there was a pertinent point that the Senate President brought out in a video that was posted yesterday. He said that 51% of the women constitute the population of voters in Nigeria, and that the truth of the matter is that women do not vote for themselves. And he asked the pertinent question, why is that the case? Why don't women vote for themselves, considering that the amount of voters, they constitute 51%? But can we have Aisha in the house, please? Now, Aisha, after Senator AKPABIO accused the Senate President of harassment and sued him for $100 billion, his wife publicly defended him and countersued Natasha for $250 billion. In response, Senator Natasha advised the Senate President's wife to stay out of Senate affairs. We then saw public displays of affection between the warring couples, sealed with a kiss, which raises a very complex question. When powerful figures face harassment claims and spouses are drawn into the crossfire, how should they balance their loyalty with the risk of public humiliation? What advice would you give to spouses or partners caught in such crossfire?
So for me, I really am surprised at the fact that the show of affection, a kiss, would cause such national conversation. I kiss my husband all the time, even when we're in public. It's a normal day. So, hi, babe, I love you, and all of that. But having said that, is to say, one of the things that we found is that I have a friend who called them gender traitors. It's that a lot of women are ready to defend their either spouses or someone related to them when it comes to sexual harassment. It's almost as if they want to defend the perpetrators. And one of the things also we cannot take away is the conditioning that we've had as women of this country, right from a very young age. I mean, this whole conversation has thrown a lot out. There is a girl who on Twitter did talk about the fact that how she was being harassed by a boy, and she reported her to her teacher, and guess who was punished? She was the one that was punished. That was said she must have done something to have attracted it. So even in the case of harassment, all throughout the generation, we've had women being punished for just the, and then even up to now, you hear questions like, what was she wearing? What were they doing there? What were they doing this thing? And so most spouses think that they have to defend. And so the first thing is to come out and do everything, even when they actually know that their spouses are guilty, even when they know that their spouses are serial perpetrators, they continue to defend. And for some of them, that's their only way. They have to defend, otherwise they will not be victims of one thing or the other. But I think what should happen here is to take a moment and just try and let there be transparency. Nobody is saying that you shouldn't support your spouse. I mean, your first reaction probably will be to support your spouse, but you must also engage in a manner that shows that you're more for justice and not just for shaming someone or shutting down someone. So that whole thing about coming out to say that, oh, she has gone to court, she has sued on the fact that her own rights were infringed upon, and I'm thinking, this is what the courts will usually call a busybody. What are you doing there? How are you the one? You're not the one who was accused. How are you the one coming out? But the only thing I see there is maybe a tactics of going to court and sort of like gagging, Senator Natasha. I think one of the things that I saw there in terms of what they put out was that she should stop granting interviews. So now, everything will be like, oh, it's in the court. And so that could be a tactic that is used there. And I think one of the things is that this whole, not just even spouses that do this, either families, friends, and sometimes some gender where they feel that they have to gang up and protect the perpetrators. We should stop it. This is what we do in Nigeria. Most times we vilify the victim rather than ensuring that justice is served. What everybody should be calling out right now is for there to be an independent, transparent investigation into this whole thing and let it happen. And let's not forget, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan is not the first high-ranking woman who has come out to accuse Senator AKPABIO of sexual harassment. The former NDDC MD had even said, and she said this on air, on national TV, that she had slapped him for the same thing. And so there's a pattern, that is out there. But what we must be interested in is the fact that let there be investigation, because now this is a very serious issue. We are talking about millions of victims out there that are going to be gagged and millions of perpetrators that are going to be emboldened to continue their, harassment, sexual harassment, knowing fully well that they have a playing field where they can do whatever it is that they need to do. And the courts also, I think there was an injunction also that the Senate did not listen to. The Nigerian judiciary should stand up and be the judiciary is supposed to be. They should be the last resort of the common man and stop being the plaything of corrupt politicians. As it is now, right now, they've lost the value that they hold in the system. Nobody trusts them. Nobody thinks they're going to get justice out of there. You've seen a lot of time where it's almost as if you get it's entrepreneurship where people can go around buying the kind of justice or the kind of injunction that they want, where you are seeing some people are being known to be the people who wield the iron hand when it comes to the judiciary. So the judiciary should stand up and occupy its space and actually be the last resort of the common man, because if you don't have justice, we can never have peace. And that's what is happening in Nigeria, where a lot of people have lost hope in the judiciary, in the justice system, where there's no rule of law, and they're taking the laws into their hands. These are things that we should not, allow in our country.
Thank you so much, Aisha. Can we please have Senator Grace Bent in the House? Senator Grace Bent, remember the last question I asked you, which is where the Senate President publicly said that women constitute 51% of the voting population, but that doesn't reflect in the political positions that we get, and that this is the reflection that women do not vote for each other. Now, I want to just pose that question, that statement with my second question for you, which is, why are women empowered judged more harshly than men, from their appearance to their personal lives? The notion that also the notion that all successful women sleep their way to the top is not only unfair, but infuriating for those who actually work relentlessly, like yourself, to shatter that myth. So in a system that still suppresses female ambition, what does this stigma explain about why men, how does this stigma now explain why men are sometimes hesitant to support their wives into entering a foray like politics?
Thank you very much. One thing that is very gratifying about the Senate President's pronouncement yesterday was the fact that he identified, and justifiably so, that the women constitute over 50% of the voting population. There's no doubt about that. And a lot of times you hear the men say, oh, women, you don't support one another, you are always going to, pull each other down, and so on and so. The bottom line is, yes, we've had, cases of women not standing by one another or by each other, and this is a problem of our mindset before the advent of women actually coming out to run political offices. The men have always dominated the scene. It was seen ab initio as an exclusive reserve of the men folk, especially when it comes to contesting for elective offices. So this archaic mindset, whether you like it or not, is still something that is running in the minds of the women, especially the women in the villages. You see there's so much illiteracy. The electorates have not come to terms with the reality that women, there's a paradigm shift and more women are beginning to come out. So there's a lot of work to be done by women ourselves. And this can only be done by women who are ready to mentor other women.
But what about this?
We go to the electorates.
What about this? What about this presumption? That a lot of women, sorry to cut in. What about this presumption that a lot of successful women are believed to have swept their way to the top, and even some other women accuse such women of that? What about this wrong perception or unfair perception?
They did what?
What about this unfair perception that most women who are successful have slept their way to the top?
Yes.
There's that perception out there, which is unfair for women who have actually worked hard to get to where they are at. Is this also a deterrent in our growth as women, collectively?
One thing you must understand, that this bandwagon fallacy of a statement has always been a conspiracy theory which was etched by the men political elites, and it's just to discourage the women. And I've used myself as an example. I've lived with my husband for almost, what are you saying, for about 4 decades or thereabout. And you want to tell me that I became a senator by having to, compromise myself with a man, or what? I mean, that doesn't make sense. It's very cheap men and cheap women who make such assertions. And I want you to throw that into the garbage. A lot of women have struggled. They have the capacity. They have the proven track record. They are qualified. And they have struggled against all odds to reach the pinnacle of their career. So for any man to say this, or any woman, is to say that I want you to know that it is only being said by men and women who have not understood the essence of political participation. No man, as a matter of fact, will sleep with you and will still give you what you want. The moment a man messes up with you, you have lost your integrity. So it's a non-starter. You don't even go near it. And that is why I've told you about being strong as a woman. Because when you are strong as a woman and you show and prove to a man that I am not just any other woman, I am not your bedmaid, I am not a woman of easy virtue. Men don't, well, I'm not saying going to generalize it. Some men don't want to hear that. Some men see women as expendable figures. And so it is not all women that you hear them say this. But one thing I want to assure you, that there's a lot of awareness that is going on amongst the women. If I tell you all my elections in Adamawa State, I have had tremendous support of the women folks. And because there's so much understanding now on the part of the women. And I know that if, like I said initially, if political parties will consciously and deliberately say, look, for a change, let us have national secretaries as women, both at the national, the state, and the world. You will see things begin to change.
I have to ask another question.
And you will understand.
Please.
Yes.
Pray tell. I have to ask another question. There's also the issue of character assassination.
I'm ready for you.
There's also the issue.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ma.
We
There's
have
also
that.
They also
Pull me down syndrome.
Yes, no, listen. Let me just land.
You have a character assassination.
No, listen.
Yes.
You remember how the Senate president accused
Headline you to marginalize you.
Okay.
And the more you stand with your head up, even in the face of this intimidation, the more you earn respect for yourself, from even men, not just women. So that a woman has married 6 men in her lifetime is not a big deal to me.
Okay.
You should take that aside.
Thank you, Senator.
It doesn't say exactly what that woman is.
Thank you, Senator
Yes.
Grace. Please let me get back to Aisha. Aisha, yes, I was just going to invite you back on.
Yes, please.
Go on.
Yeah, can I just quickly come in and comment on this?
Yes, please.
Before.
Please do.
Is that okay? Okay. So the first thing that we need to understand is that for every divorced woman, there is a divorced man. She didn't divorce herself. There are 2 parties. And this shaming is something that we have to do away with. There is something that Senator Brent said at the beginning of this conversation, which is very instructive, that many men are afraid of strong women. So when they see women who are strong, who are achievers, who are doing so many great things, they will do everything to bring them down. And that's where they have one of these, where they always tell you that the women sleep their way to the top. Why are the men also sleeping their way to the top? If that's the way people get to the top. And so this is a deliberate denigration, a deliberate attempt to undermine the work that they have done. On the issue of women not supporting women, and I remember when, I think it was Madam Sarah Jubril, when she had primaries and she didn't get any vote. And for decades, we kept hearing, oh, women don't support women, they will use her as an example. At least she didn't pay 100 million naira. Because the last primaries we had, we saw people who paid 100 million naira, men, and they didn't get a single vote. So who is saying men don't support men because those people, don't get that? Coming to the issue of population, we are quick to be told that women are more than half of the population. Women are 50-something% of the of the voting, population. But where is the power? It's just like there are certain countries that are less than one-tenth of our population, but they are doing greatly. It's not about the numbers. It's about the power attached to those numbers. How educated are these women? I have never heard, and I let anybody correct me, where I've heard that we call her that name. And if you ask all women who have done something in their lives, one way or the other, that's the label they give to us. And I love the way this younger generation of women are standing up to them. They say, yes, whatever you say, we'll use it to rub Vaseline. We'll continue. I will not allow our heads to bow, because there are certain people who don't have the strength, you understand, who are insecure and feel that until they put a certain gender down before they are able to do something.
Thank you so much, Aisha. This has really rejuvenated me, and I hope this is the same feeling applied to all the women watching the program today.